If you have any questions or comments as we go along, you can drop them into the chat and we'll pick those up as we go through. But this is what the series looks like. We are in the first week. We're going to be talking about methods for systems innovations. This is like exploring the overall approaches, the overall process that different organizations use for going about trying to enable systems innovation. We'll also be looking at the one we use at SI that will then be using as we go through the rest of this series. Next week, we'll be looking at tools, individual templates and tools for running workshops, for facilitating systems change. Week 3, we'll be talking about strategies and how to develop a strategy for systems change and the kind of challenges you might face there. Finally, in week 4, we'll be looking at setting up and running initiatives and labs and all of that. So great to have you joining. Do you want to wave your hand, Azra, to say hi so everyone can see you?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining and looking forward for this session today with you all.
Great stuff. We're at almost 70 people already. Let's get started. Content we're working with today, you'll see lots of graphics and so forth. It's taken from these new set of guides at SI. We call them the methods guides. So it's all about the tools and methods, and you'll find a link there. Actually, Azra might share one in the chat if you want to learn more about those. Yeah, to get you started, we will be working on the mirror board here. Encourage you to jump in and just share with us a little bit why you're here today, what you're hoping to get from today's session, from the full session. Would love to hear that. We'll just take maybe 1-2 minutes. It's also an opportunity for you to familiarize yourself with Miro. All you do is you click on a sticky and type in your response. As we go through, you may need to create new stickies, and you just find those on the left-hand side there, drop them down, you can scale them and so forth. Okay, we'll just take a couple of minutes for that, or one minute for that. Maybe whilst we're doing that, I'll give you a peek into what we have coming up today. So we're going to start off really trying to get on the same page about what systems innovation is. So we'll be exploring this first guide here, maybe taking 15 minutes or so just for me to share kind of foundational ideas. Some people, this is new to them, some not, but we want to try and get on the same page about what we're talking about here. So we'll have a short presentation. Definitely welcome your questions as we go through. We've got a box here. It's called the questions box, and it is what it says it is. Drop your questions in there. You can drop them into the chat, and Azra can pick them up. So just put a sticky there if you have any questions. After that, we're going to look at methods, particular approaches used by different organizations. Here will then be posting up any challenges that you're bringing in today, doing a bit of voting around those before we go into breakout rooms to discuss those using a short Canvas template based upon this method we'll be learning about here. So, Azra, do you want to read out anything we have here of interest?
Yeah. I see that a lot of people are interested in applying systems thinking in their work and also learning from other people who are already working in the field of systems thinking. A lot of people actually find our tools and ideas interesting, and they would like to learn through this platform how to apply them. I think it's mostly around how our accelerator is also built to learn and really apply the whole concept of systems innovations and thinking back to the profession that they are involved in.
Great. Let's leave it there. Stay moving along. Thanks for sharing that. Good to get a little glimpse as to why you're here. And we'll stay moving along. So hopefully everyone has the mirror board at this stage, and you've been able to join. We'll jump into this first section here to share with you what systems innovation is all about. And again, this is taken from the guide you'd find at the beginning there, so you're welcome to jump into that now or afterwards to learn more. So what is systems innovation? It's a more holistic approach to enabling innovation within complex systems. And it's about changing systems ultimately, but doing that from a particular approach that we would call an innovative one, which is about the creation and application of new ideas. So it's a systemic approach. I'm sure you're aware of that at this time. It looks at the underlying dynamics of a complex system and the systemic structures, and asks about how we can do a more transformative kind of change, trying to change the behavior and function structure and ultimately ways of thinking and values and goals of a system. So it's really thinking comprehensively about innovation. I'll talk more about that in a minute. This approach becomes relevant when we're dealing with complexity. And that's a good place to start this whole conversation, this idea of complex challenges, because it's kind of what it's all about. We also call them wicked ones, wicked problems, or I like to call them challenges. And they look a bit like this. Another word for them is messes, and that's a mess. And they differ fundamentally from these ones on the left-hand side, which don't look so messy. They look nice and simple. They're things like fixing a light bulb. They're things like fixing a toothache or a puncture on your car, or building a road or something like this. It's a relatively tame problem. And in that world, we can have problems and we have solutions, and we go and fix those problems and through kind of linear algorithms or processes that can be well defined. And we can have solutions and things can be fixed. And we do a lot of that. And we have done a lot of that. And we're pretty good at it, but it's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about this new world of complexity and the kind of challenges that presents to us. And the nature of these kinds of problems is fundamentally different from those ones we see on the left there, the tame ones. These ones are very wicked. They're essentially multiple intersecting networks and different systems. They're complex systems um, that are exhibiting some kind of dysfunctionality. And kind of defining factor aspect of them is that they're systemic. It's the underlying way that system is functioning that's leading to the results, the emergence of these dysfunctional outcomes. And yeah, there's many of these in our world. We hear a lot about them, in politics at the moment, political paralysis, and, fake news, climate change, um, cybersecurity, so on and so forth. They often appear a bit like this. These are the words that people use. They're multidimensional, interconnected, interdependent, open-ended, no kind of solution to them, multiple perspectives on the nature of the challenge and the solution and so forth. So these are all around us these days as we've become more embedded into a wide variety of complex systems. And they require very different approaches because they're systemic challenges. They require systemic responses. And this graphic often resonates with a lot of people in terms of capturing where we find ourselves at this stage. So we have all these kind of outcomes up here that really aren't working for us, whether it's obesity, um, whether it's, financial instability and so forth, or inequality. We see these up here in the world, and we really want to do something about them. They're problems for governments, for businesses, for individuals, and so forth. But we often find ourselves just with these linear reductionist industrial age approaches for addressing them. And they really aren't working for us because the problem, the nature of the challenge is down here, it's systemic and it's embedded within all these complex systems. And these approaches up here that are trying to change the parts are really not working for us. So Kate Simpson puts it quite well. When you try work on a complex problem without considering the underlying conditions, it's like shouting at a rotten tomato and just hoping it will get better. It will keep you busy, it will give you plenty to do, but it won't actually make much change. And that's kind of uh, where we are at this time quite often with our approaches in terms of trying to change parts where the problems are really systemic. And of course, when the problems are systemic, we need to actually move away from changing the parts, and we need to start thinking about how to change systems. And we need to move away from innovation. If we really want innovation that's become such a dominant kind of force in our world to really be a purposeful and a value to us in addressing the real challenges we have to shift that innovation from the endless innovation in parts, in products and services, to this innovation in systems. It may sound very simple when you put it like that, but of course it's incredibly complex. We're trying to expand the kind of sphere within which we have agency and we operate in the world and our influence in the world. And of course, it takes us into this world of complexity, takes us into this world of complex systems and trying to understand those. And it's a brave new world for us in terms of understanding complex systems. A lot of our thinking from the industrial age really helps us understand products or even services. It doesn't really help us understand complex systems. So it requires new ways of thinking, and then it requires new ways of working also. And this is really what we need from our approach to systems innovation. It needs to help us think in new ways, um, to find an awareness of systems from which we can start to kind of innovate, and really focus on changing the system instead of changing the parts. But then, of course, we need to take that awareness and understanding and find new ways to work together and organize to actually address these challenges. And that's what we're talking about with systems innovation, moving away from this reductionist innovation in parts down here, technical innovation, new products and services taken to market, and move up to this systems innovation, the systems thinking. We start to understand systems, become aware of their systemic dynamics, paradigms, mental models, and find new ways to frame challenges, new ways to coordinate around them, and so forth. So that's systems innovation. Very briefly. If you have any questions about that, you're very much welcome to post them here. We'll come to them in a minute. But just to say, what are kind of key aspects of a systems innovation? I've put some of them up here. They were kind of part of that conversation. It's going to take new kind of awareness, new understanding of the system, of complex systems, from which we can start to innovate. So you'll often hear about that, and we'll talk about it, systems thinking, and the need for new ways of thinking. We hear about that a lot in the world. We often don't hear what exactly is that new way of thinking. Here in this world, we're saying it's systems thinking. That's really what we need to help us understand complex systems in a way that we don't have that awareness at the moment. We need to also understand actually, how this system works, the structure, the elements and interrelationships, and so forth. Um, so it's a bit like this, shifting to this kind of view of the world, where we're starting to understand what we do, whether it's education, whether it's medicine and healthcare, whether it's media, whether it's employment and enterprises, whether it's economies, as systems, and really starting to get this new framing of them as complex adaptive systems, which we often don't have. Our traditional thinking leads us back to traditional ways of innovating and so forth. So trying to understand systems, as Donella Meadows says, before you disturb the system in any way, watch how it behaves. If it's a piece of music or a whitewater rapid or a fluctuation in a commodity price, study its beat. If it's a social system, watch it work, learn its history. So it's really taking an inquiry-based approach, listening to the system to understand it. We need a more transformative kind of innovation. So you'll hear a lot about transition design and transformational innovation as opposed to incremental. And we'll talk about that as we go along, trying to move away from this kind of planned, step-by-step change that's very amenable to our traditional organizations and thinking, but it's not really the change that we need. It doesn't lead to transformation. Um, it creates quite superficial changes. They're often, technologically focused. Whereas we need this, if you talk about transformation, something needs to die and something needs to be born again, and we need to learn how to navigate those kind of simultaneous decay and growth processes that are transformative. And we're not very good at even really talking about those, never mind really embedding them into our change in organizations and across systems. So we've got to learn how to do kind of a transformative kind of innovation. And ultimately about ecosystem building that, well, Mr. Churchman down here says it. Wicked problems are systems issues that require the collective engagement from people at all levels to learn their way to solutions. It's saying this can't be the way we solve problems in the past. If it's not one part of the system that we can study and analyze and fix, we actually need much broader kind of awareness and intelligence and capacity and capability and innovation across systems for them to change themselves. Um, so we need to move away from the idea that one organization or individual can start to really make stuff happen. It's really this ecosystem approach that is needed. And we need to find ways to support that and create the right context for the development of these ecosystems instead of this very siloed approach that we have of more projects, more programs, more solutions, but actually they don't add up. They add up to a lot less than the sum of their parts, and our resources get dispersed when we really need to be finding ways to connect and collaborate through networks to build ecosystems around these challenges. So that's just to say a bit about, what systems innovation is, what are kind of key aspects of a systems innovation. If we don't have changes in thinking, it's not really going to be transformative. If we don't have changes in structure or awareness of structure, if we aren't really working with transition processes, if we can't really build ecosystems, we're not really going to get a kind of systems innovation or systems change. Should we stop for a question, Ezra? I think we have one
We
here.
have a question
Yeah. Do you want to read that out? Maybe also anything in the chat.
here. Nothing in the chat so far, but here is the question. It says, regarding understanding social systems, of course, and all of its interactions, how is uncertainty considered and or approached through systems innovations and systems thinking? Maybe Manuela, you can also elaborate your question.
Yeah, I mean, uncertainty is a key part of complex systems, and it's why we need to move away from this kind of planning approach where we think we have certainty about the future. We think we can know everything, and we need to move to a much more iterative, adaptive, experimental approaches and contexts that enable experimentation in a more distributed way so that we can kind of learn, test, experiment, iterate, and learn our way towards what might work given environments and contexts and challenges where there's radical uncertainty, even about the nature of the problem, never mind the nature of the solution or what we might actually be able to bring together in complex systems. There's so many different dimensions and so many things that could potentially work. There's so many different pathways that we have to work in this very experimental initiative way to find what might actually work. Work with this idea that yes, uncertainty is a fundamental thing here rather than a bug that we can kind of fix with a lot of analysis.
We have another two questions on the chat as well.
Does anyone want to speak one out quickly, or how do we see the field evolving given AI tools? Have you completed any experiments where it adds value to the SI process? I was seeing yesterday a new tool developed that you can build causal loop diagrams and systems maps. You just put in a lot of text about the nature of the problem. This was snow in Seattle, I think it was, and different. Just write in the different things involved, and it creates the algorithm can create a systems map and causal loop diagram out of that. So that's quite a development. I think, yeah, data and technology algorithms would be core to be building ecosystems. If you think about a very complex system, if you work with these kind of ecosystems, larger ones, as we might talk about now, you can see how the data becomes really important. Algorithms for connecting and matchmaking and drawing insight and so forth becomes very important at that scale. Maybe just one more quick one, Asher, or should we move on?
Mm.
Yeah, maybe we'll come back to it. We'll stay going for the moment, for the sake of time. So down here, I mean, that was just introduction stuff around systems innovation. What it is. It's not really what we're covering in the series. It's more about how to do this stuff. Of course, we have the learning series. We have a whole pile of guides. Some of you would have joined for that, so you'll know it already. Here we're talking about, yeah, how do we do this stuff in a somewhat systematic fashion, or what can we learn from other people instead of trying to recreate the wheel ourselves. So A method is what we're talking about here. A method is essentially a well-defined process that outlines the key activities required to move forwards in trying to achieve a certain outcome. So that's all it is, really, some kind of a process, some kind of steps we're going to take to move forwards. And this quickly, outlines the shift from linear thinking to systems thinking, or linear approaches to systems approaches. In our linear approaches, we have a set of tools, their management methods, their financial instruments, their technologies, and we go and just try and fix the problem. That's linear, right? Cause and effect, problem, solution. Up here, we're saying actually we need to understand the system. We need to map it out. We need to find the right set of places to intervene, and we need to bring together, aggregate the right actors at the different places to work together around those challenges. So in that sense, it's non-linear. We're not directly trying to fix a problem. We're trying to understand the system and intervene at multiple places so that we might lead to the emergence of a healthy system, emergence of new outcomes. So that's generally, what we're talking about here. It takes time. If we're new to this, it takes a lot of time to move away from linear thinking. We are so conditioned with that. It takes a long time for us to get used to a different way of doing things. Um, what we're going to explore now is these four dimensions to systems innovation that are kind of following from what we talked about up here, and they structure all the content and tools and methods at SI. It's not linear again, right? It's a number of dimensions that we think need to be brought into focus, that we need to build our capacity around if we're going to do systems innovation. If we're going to help people think in new ways around the system, if we're going to help them map it out and understand it, we're going to help enable transitions and build ecosystems. So that's that. We're going to kind of look at this and walk through a little bit how different organizations approach this in a minute. These are some of the organizations we'll talk about today and maybe in future sessions. These are the ones doing systems change or systems innovation. We'll talk about Climate Kick, we can see on the top right there, one of the larger organizations, but there are many others here, and you can search for them and learn more about them. Okay, so let's go down here. We're going to look through those four kind of dimensions and see how different methods look at each one, from framing and thinking in systems around the challenge, mapping it, transition, and ecosystem building. The first one is actually, maybe you've heard of it, U theory by Otto Scharmer. And this is very much based on systems thinking, and it's very much based on the idea that, transformation doesn't happen from kind of level one thinking. It's the idea that if we really want to transform, we've got to get to kind of higher levels of thinking and awareness. That if we're down here, single loop learning, we're just kind of reacting to a problem and trying to change it. Second loop learning, we can start to learn how we approach something and change our approaches and structures and so forth. But if you want transformation, we've got to be aware of our methods and approaches and the paradigm that's framing how we're looking at the world, the goals that we're setting, the values, and so on and so forth. So the idea is that here we're saying, okay, we need to change this up here if we're going to change stuff down here and down here. It's like the iceberg model. We'll look at that in a minute. So this is often kind of how systems thinking approaches the nature of transformation and the need for change, that we really need to change these, macro paradigms and so forth that will change other things. And shift to this kind of ecosystem way of looking at the world that Otto Scharmer and so forth would say that, of course, the problem is we're very much still in this ecosystem way of looking at the world and relating to things. And we need to shift to a more ecosystem view of the world and set of values and ways of relating and so forth. And it is core to systems innovation. We can't do this stuff from an ego system kind of set of motivations and perspective. And you probably have the iceberg model. We'll look at it as a tool next week. It's quite a well-known one. It's really the idea, U theory is really the idea that we need to kind of download and let go of the old paradigm over here and explore it and unpack it and understand how it works and so forth before we can shift to new thinking, new ways of doing things, and out of that can emerge new structures and ultimately new outcomes in the system. So that's all about changing the paradigm, changing the thinking, and saying if we need to understand the existing paradigm that's creating the existing system. If we don't do that, we're just going to, go on creating the same issues, just to look new with new technologies. If we don't change it, it's going to go on creating it. If we do, then we can have the possibility for the emergence of something very different over here, and that we need to change the systems paradigm to realize new structures, new outcomes over time. And yeah, I welcome you to take a look into that. Maybe I won't go into it right now, but it's explained here. You'll find a link, and this is how they talk about it. Downloading the past, um, seeing and looking at it openly, sensing, letting go of the past is an important part, and ultimately kind of transitioning to something new, letting something new come, crystallizing vision and intent, and then kind of taking that back out into the world. And that's a bit of a kind of journey we go through as we let go of the past, and well, become aware of, the existing modality, let go of it, and ultimately try to create and bring something new into the world. So that's the review. And what I'm saying is this is one kind of dimension to systems innovation, that we need this change in paradigm, change in thinking. It's not the only one. There are other ways of approaching it, and other organizations and approaches do. So another is around mapping and leverage points. You'll hear a lot about that. The idea that we're dealing with systems like a food system, and we need to understand those, so map them out. What are the elements? What are the factors, actors, and so forth? How are they interrelated to understand this system? And then we need to try and find those intervention points, which are the best places or set of places to intervene to shift the system's dynamics and realize the emergence of a new system over time. So that's kind of core to how many organizations and many people think about systems change and systems innovation, that it's this understanding and mapping out the factors and so forth. Over here is examples of this. The Amidia group make a great booklet, systems practice. And hopefully there's a link here somewhere. Yep, up here at the beginning. If you click on that, it should take you to a PDF. And it's quite comprehensive in terms of walking you through their whole approach. And you can see here they've got kind of a pre-launch stage where they're forming the team, they're planning the journey ahead, and laying the foundations. We've got a phase one, gaining clarity, developing a deep understanding of the system, and then building a map that captures the key forces and patterns driving the system's behavior. Over here, number two, they're going to leverage points and exploring the most promising opportunities for engaging the system in ways that could help it push forwards to greater health. Number three, you'll see over here kind of outlined different aspects of that. The guide really breaks it down. Three, acting strategically, designing and implementing an approach that exploits opportunities for leverage to make sustainable societal change. And finally, adapting and learning through continuously sensing and learning from the system and adapting accordingly. So that you can see there, that's very much organized around the map and building maps to find intervention points. You can see examples of that here, and not going to go into that now, but you can take a look at the guide over here. Any quick questions? Everybody happy so far? Yeah, I'll stay going for two more. So that's mapping intervention points. We'll talk about changing the paradigm, and these are all important aspects to systems innovation. Finally, or thirdly, about transition design. We are trying to move from one system in the past and the present to a new one in the future, and that implies a transition. It should be transformative because its systems change. So this is one way of thinking about it, and one way that organizations do in terms of how do we design these transitions? How do we represent and model these transitions? how do we think about the future and where we're going and the dynamics at play in the system, the incumbents, the innovators, the upstarters, the drivers of change, the macro changes within in the environment, and so forth. So quite a few models approach it from that perspective, or methods, and multi-level perspective, and three horizons, and so forth. So in many of them, you'll see these kind of key aspects to it: the macro level, the environment, the regime, and the micro kind of innovations, and talk about how those interact and play out over time to create a new system. Um, and what happens in that transition, and how can we design it? How can we enable it? How can we support these innovations and really capture that opportunity that's been created by these macro changes to actually disrupt the incumbents and really try and lead to an aspirational new system over time? So that's another one. You'll see it here, maybe in the Systemic Design Toolkit guide is another one. And they lay that out in these different stages. They have a whole toolkit and set of canvases to help you run workshops in facilitating people through these different stages. Won't go into that right now. You'll be able to take a look at that yourselves afterwards, and take a look at their website. Many of the tools are available there. There's a link right there. Also, this is Rio's partners, who do a lot of facilitating systems change. And this is the kind of work that they do. Start with co-initiating, convene a strategic microcosm of the system, co-sensing, develop a shared understanding of the problematic situation, co-presencing, retreating to access deeper knowledge, clarify strategic direction and leverage points, co-creating, prototyping, and piloting interventions, and co-evolving, institutionalizing the new solutions. So they run a lot of convenings and workshops and labs and so forth for different actors to work through this process. For example, here's one: Electricity Innovation Lab, accelerating innovation in the US electricity sector, land reform futures for South Africa. It's a lot to do with convening the different stakeholders and actors in the system, and designing some kind of set of workshops or interventions for them to start to work together in changing the system. So we're going to stay going. You'll find links there also to Rio's partners, so you can learn more about them. Finally, we'll talk about this ecosystem dimension to the whole thing. And this is about building a network of actors who are going to work together around this challenge over time, and figuring out how to form that network and build their capacity for co-learning and co-creating around the challenge. We'll look at the example of Climate Kick here, which is one of the most kind of advanced ecosystems doing systems innovation. It's the European Union's knowledge and innovation community trying to address climate change through systems innovation approaches. Quite a large ecosystem, maybe 400 institutions across Europe, across the world, actually. Everything from cities to universities and NGOs, regions, businesses, and so forth. And they're trying to get them to work together around, yeah, the challenges of specifically decarbonizing is a big part of the work that they do. And this is a little bit of their kind of a method. Agreeing intent with challenge owners, defining the intervention strategy, orchestrating a portfolio, sense making and feedback loops. And that's their systems innovation methodology. They're working at quite a larger kind of scale with different institutions. You can see here some of their initiatives. You can see the link there: circular economy in Slovenia, sustainable food systems in Ireland, where I am right at the moment, climate adaptation and carbon-free economy. Here's a good case study in Poland, the Just Transition uh, lab that they ran in Poland to try and shift a region away from coal as its primary economic activity, and shift it to clean energy. Here's another of their initiatives, Net Zero Cities. A up to 100 cities across Europe that are trying to support as an ecosystem working together around decarbonizing their city and trying to reach those targets. Um, so that's Climate Kick, very interesting organization that's doing this at quite a large scale around climate change, particularly in Europe. So that was trying to, flesh out a little bit these different dimensions to systems innovation that I was talking about, um, and hopefully building this idea, the idea of these different kind of capabilities, different dimensions that we need to think about, and we'll be exploring as we go forwards. We'll actually be exploring them now as we go into our workshop. Um, the thinking in systems, understanding, mapping them out, transition design and ecosystem building. It's not the only way of approaching it. It's not a linear way. It's not we have to do step one, step two. We don't have to have all of them. There's many ways of doing systems innovation, and it looks quite different in different areas, different contexts, different challenges, and so forth. So we definitely don't encourage the idea that there's a step one, step two, step three, or that we always have to do the same thing and so forth. But we do think that we need different capabilities to bring into focus. And these are some of them. So we need to learn about these. We need to build these capacities if we're interested in applying this approach in our work. Next week, we'll be looking at all the different tools we could use. And if you join the learning series, you'll learn about all these ideas, but we'll be looking next week in terms of all the tools in those different areas. What I want to do now is move on to our workshop, hear a bit about your challenges, but maybe I'll stop just for a second. Any questions, Asha, or anybody want to unmute themselves?
We had one question just a minute ago on the chat about how it is a right size of the team that needs to go through these exercises, who should be involved, and how would it be interesting to get an organization, I think top down, to get involved in this idea of transition. And I think so. I could ask Roger to maybe ask this question again to clarify it.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to think about the right team and the right profiles, right? How many people and how do they represent the organization that should go through these dynamics, right? How do you choose this? I understand there's no one size fits all, but what's your idea on how to select the people that would go through this? Because you cannot have the full organization, right? What are you thinking there?
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a big question. It does kind of depend on the context and organization and so forth. So I might reference you back to what we saw here in terms of where they talk about forming your team and planning for the journey ahead. Otherwise, you might like to join us. We're going to have sessions in between these on Mondays where we have a bit more space to discuss peer-to-peer, and I might be able to address it then. I think it's a bit more of a kind of challenging topic just to jump into right now, but maybe we'll go to another one.
We had one question from Faison, who is asking what limitations are we going to be working with today?
Yeah, so we're going to hear a bit about the challenges that you people have and you're bringing in here so that we can then kind of work in go into breakout rooms and exercise our thinking around those different dimensions. So how are we doing for time? Yeah, we've got another 50 minutes or so we're doing pretty good. Should we jump into that now? What we're doing here is hearing from you about the kind of challenges that you have. Not everyone here will have a challenge, so that's fine. For those who have come with specific challenges they're trying to address, we'll take a few minutes now, and we'd love to hear about what your challenges you're bringing, and try to put it into a sticky, write it up into a sticky corresponding to one of the categories so that we can try and structure this a little bit. If you think it's around education, we want to put it up here in one of these stickies, food down here, cities, mobility, so on and so forth. So let's take maybe 3 minutes to do that, and then we're going to vote on those to choose the ones that we all want to choose to take into the breakout rooms. We have about 12 breakout rooms, and let's jump into that now. Maybe we'll take 2 minutes to do that, or 3 minutes. Let me find my clock here. And yeah, it won't be for everyone. It's for whoever's bringing a challenge today and wants to kind of lead a conversation around that in the breakout room. Please post up your ideas there. And the others, you can read these as you go along, and you can start voting on them. Drag a dot, just one dot, down to where the one that you find interesting once they're posted up there. So yeah, let's get started. Yeah, so you can see quite a few challenges posted up already. Maybe should we zoom in and start maybe reading through them, Azra? For the rest of you, for everyone, we encourage you to grab a dot and vote on one of the ones that you're finding interesting, you want to join a breakout room to discuss.
I see that there are a lot of people interested in education, and we have about high number of votes for redesigning teaching profession to respond to 21st century needs. And we also have one more. World Economic Forum highlighted systems thinking as a key future education topic this week, how to embed firmly within an education curricula.
Yeah.
I also see some more interest in education around lack of teachers in our schooling system. Um, I also see that under governance, there are two dots on an empty sticky. I'm not sure uh, who, who put them there, but then maybe you can also move it to another place where there are challenges. We have one here which says switch from linear follow throughout qualitative indicators to create social transformations. We There are a lot of people interested in making decisions processed at local and national level more participative. Then moving towards economy and business, we have hierarchy mindset and dominance lead to ineffective ways to deal with complexity. We also have better integrating business ecosystems with localized community development. We also have some good attention around cities. With our city's workforce has a culture of fear. How might we approach this? And community residents are feeling isolated from each other. I think how would we like to overcome that? And we have here under environment how to raise awareness among citizens about the biodiversity of their city. Then we have two challenges under food. How How do we teach people about nutrition so they can make healthier choices? And how do we know what is relevant in food transition, and how can we align our efforts so that we can make an actual change? Yeah, we have a few more here under society. How do we transition from phone addiction to healthy social contacts for teenagers? Wow, that's very interesting. Um, we have shifting the idea of shelters, for example, women shelters to whole family supports. How might we revamp the system? How do we bring intersection between equity and equality? How do we see philanthropy as not a separate grantor for community, but inherently part of the community? How do we integrate immigrants, especially refugees and asylum workers? We also have one under healthcare, ensuring that everybody who receives a cancer diagnosis in a timely way and provide support for those with greatest need. Um, I think I've pretty much covered
Yeah,
everything.
great. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ezra. Hopefully, you're all voting away now. We can start choosing some of the main topics. Actually, Ezra, maybe you'd like to do that. Start bringing bring them down to the breakout rooms, the most popular ones, and I'll explain whilst we're going what we're going to be doing now. So, yep, stay voting. If you get a chance there, please, Ezra, bring them down. We have 12 breakout rooms now. So this is the chance for you to engage, to play with and explore and discuss what we've been talking about so far in terms of these four dimensions to systems innovation that we want to build our capacity around, we want to bring in when we're trying to do this work. Um, so whoever chose the topic, we want you to join that. Whoever created this challenge, we want them to join that breakout room. We will create 12 breakout rooms now in a minute. You'll be able to choose your breakout rooms based upon which topic you're interested in. You'll see them all here. So the first thing you'll do, we'll make 12 breakout rooms. You choose the one that's relevant for the challenge that you're interested in and join that room. When you join that room, we'd like to have whoever led on that challenge, whoever created that challenge, we'd like them to share a little bit about what they were thinking, where they're coming from, and so forth. So we have 30 minutes to do to here in the breakout rooms before we come back to discuss what came out of them. So once you've done that, once you've been presented on the challenge, we want you to start up here on this dimension. You'll see four questions around here. We're going to start with systems thinking and then work clockwise around this and have a conversation around the question here. Why do you think we need systems approaches in our change initiative around this wicked challenge? What happens if we don't have it? Um, Systems mapping is an equally good question to ask. What happens if we don't have these things as if we have them? Why do we need systems mapping? Why do we need to map the system? Why do we need to think about these intervention points? Transition design. Why do we need to think about transitions and to design and support new initiatives in the system? Why do we think ecosystem building is important? And why do we need to grow new networks and new ecosystems for people to collaborate around this challenge? What happens if we don't? So this is a great way to exercise your understanding and thinking around these different dimensions. In future sessions, we'll be bringing in the tools from these different areas, so we'll really be able to apply those around these challenges. Today, we're going to have this conversation. We'd love for you to post up stickies, if someone could, in the group to be able to capture what's going on in your conversation. We will come back in 30 minutes to discuss your findings. Hopefully we're getting there, Ezra. We always have a challenge for each room. Maybe I'll take one or two down. So, okay, we're getting there. Maybe I'll quickly flick through this. Room one, redesigning the teaching profession to respond to 21st century needs. Room two, maybe I'll start to create these breakout rooms so that you can choose them as we go along. So we're going to have 12. You're going to be able to choose your breakout room. So here we go. Open all rooms. You should see 12 rooms in front of you. The option, you may have to look at your your taskbar in Zoom, and it may say more and then breakout rooms, but hopefully you should have it in front of you. Do you have an option, Azure? Is that correct? Azure, do you have the option for breakout rooms at this time? Or?
So I do on my screen.
Is it on your taskbar or on your screen? Do others see it? Maybe you can put it in the chat.
It just popped up on my screen.
Okay, great. So room one was we designed the teacher profession to respond to 21st century needs. If you posted that challenge, please join that room. If you'd like to work around that challenge, please join that room. Room two, making decision processes at local and national levels more participative. Room three, World Economic Forum highlights systems thinking as a key future education topic this week, how to embed firmly within education curricula. So that's the education topic. We have an environment one, how to raise awareness around citizens about the biodiversity of their city. And feel free to choose your room if these are resonating with you. Switch from linear, flow, up, track, throughout qualitative indicators to create social transformations. Everybody have the breakout rooms. Number 5 and 10 have the same topic. Azra, do you want to address that?
Sorry, where can we see the rooms? I don't see the rooms.
Yeah. Do you see in your taskbar anywhere where it's saying more, maybe, or you should have notifications somewhere?
No.
Okay.
It's on the top left for me.
Yeah, so other people having challenges? Do you see it somewhere top, maybe top left, depends on your computer.
Top left.
You should have a little notification somewhere that says like a red notification.
If I may also add something, near the icon AI companion, we have a button with more, and if we click on that one, we find the rooms. We can click on conference rooms, and then the list opens. Maybe this is
join breakout
helpful.
room. Okay.
Yeah.
See. All right, they're there.
Yeah.
Okay, join breakout room. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, sorry about the complication. We'll stay going here. Room 7, our city workforce has a culture of fear. How might we approach it? 8, see what is relevant in the food transition, and can we align our efforts on so that we can make an actual change? And then room 9 is down here. Better integrating business ecosystems with local community development. 10, switch from linear flow. Yeah, I think we need to change this one, Azure, because we had that one before. Maybe find a different one for room 10.
I already changed the 5th.
Okay, great. So we have in room 5 then, or room 6. Is it 5 or 6? Community residents feeling isolated from each other. And room 11, how might we use AI for future of work? And room 12, hierarchy mindset and dominance lead to inefficient ways to deal with complexity. So hopefully you have full view. You have your breakout rooms, and off you go. If you need us to assign you to a breakout room, just let us know. And of course, you can look over those and take your time to figure out which one you want to join.
John, I can assign you to room 11. That is where the technology topic is. I think it's
We could assign you, Lydia, if you want to tell us which room, number 10. Okay. Anybody else need help find your room? Sharon, have you found your room, or do you need a hand?
Oh, I need a hand. I was looking for healthcare.
Do you know which one it is?
I think there were not enough votes for healthcare as much as there were for others, so there isn't any sticky about healthcare.
It is well. Which one is food?
Food,
Yeah, I think it's number 8. Yeah. Should I put you into number 8, Sharon? Okay, probably gone. Anybody else need help finding your room?
I just need to pick one. The one that I was interested in, nobody came to it, so I'll just find a different one.
Okay. So we're just bringing everyone back to the main room, and then we could hear your conversations. We produced a lot of stickies. Let's hear a bit about what might be there. Should we try room 1? I'm not sure if you're back yet. Who was leading the conversation in room 1? Room 2, are you back? Okay, let's see who we have here. So anyone want to go? Room, say 5? Or, yeah.
Yeah.
Go. Which room are you referring to here?
Room 5. We had a really interesting discussion. Maybe Abu can briefly present the issue that he's working on, because in brief, the main challenge here is to create a network where it's inclusive for everyone, despite having different interests and different levels of access. Abu, maybe you can say a few words about specifically your project.
Maybe we'll move on because we've just got a few minutes actually. Maybe
It was
I'll
very
just,
interesting.
yeah.
You should definitely speak with Abu because he's working on something really interesting and challenging. So
Great, thank you. Sorry, we're constrained for time here. Is room 1 here? Anybody want to say a couple words about what happened to room 1?
Yep, room 1. Hi, Jose.
Hi, Tala.
How you doing?
Very good. Yeah.
Good. So we were looking at redesigning the teaching profession in the 21st century. And obviously we thought you need systems thinking because this is one of those wicked problems that has a lot of stakeholders. And the current system isn't really delivering the outcomes that we're looking for in terms of future skills and the future of work, which is probably why this room also had a lot of joiners as well. Just to jump into it really quickly in the interest of time, why should we map the system? Obviously, we have a lot of actors, so visualizing their roles, how they get involved, what do they play, who does the decisions versus who just needs to be informed was something that we discussed as well, and to manage the complexity around that. And then for transition design, we said, just like other transformation projects, it's really important to map out the current state, the future state, and then the gap in between and how you want to get there. And sometimes it's helpful to create something new where you attract people to move on to that new system or solution, and then you slowly move away from the old system once you start showing success as you pilot different things.
Mhm.
And the last,
Maybe we'll leave it there for now, Tyler.
Okay.
We can let people read over if they're interested. But
All right.
that's great. So we are just a few minutes. Anyone else want to speak from one of their rooms?
Hi, Jos. Yeah,
yeah.
maybe I'll jump in because it links quite nicely to the one we were just talking about. This was around room 3, so how to embed systems thinking within education curricula. Some of the things that came up really quickly were the entry point to start doing it seems quite high. So how do we reduce the barrier to entry so that the different levels of systems thinking for those that are just starting out can be quite a daunting thing to take on. So things like embedding in mimicry, natural systems early on in the education process could be a nice way forward there. There's how to influence policy in education, particularly when you get different governments coming in with different levels of inclusivity and protectionism. So how do you influence the policy level to get things down in place? So we had quite a broad discussion, but it was really, I think, around how to embody better approaches in education, how to reduce barriers to entry, how to get access to doing it more freely as well.
Great. Thanks for that, Mike. Maybe one more room before we draw to a close. Anybody want to share what happened in their room?
Shall I do it? Room number 6.
Great. Ron, yep.
Yeah, so how to transition from, I think, screen addiction to healthy social contact for teenagers. I think it's a very recognizable problem. Had not only, let's say, it's a social problem, but also a public health issue because of the developing brain. Basically, we thought, okay, for system thinking, it's really a good approach, because you need to understand the system and all the players, and definitely there will be a lot of pushback from the commercial aspects of this screen addiction, basically. So in the transition design phase, we really discussed, I think, a lot of solutions. We didn't really address the 3 different stages. But in the ecosystem building, we really, let's say, see it as small leverage points, I think, to empower those kids, and sort of in a positive ways, we can help kids to use the phone to actually meet in physical world, and also help parents to nudge their teenagers to come to a more healthy use of phones.
Great. Thanks for that, Ron. You're quite productive in that room, right? An interesting challenge. Indeed, all of us were quite productive. So well done to all of us. We are going to draw to a close now. Hopefully you got in today's session, that brief introduction on what systems innovation is, and starting to move towards methods and what methods are in these different dimensions, and that we shouldn't be thinking in a linear way about this. There are different capacities we need to bring into focus, bring to bear, build our abilities around those. And we do encourage this idea of a toolkit kind of approach to systems innovation, where we're like carpenters and we know all our tools. We have an understanding of what we're trying to do when it comes to building a house or doing systems innovation, and we're drawing upon the right tools and the right approaches as needed, and we know how to use those tools. Because it will be different in every context. You'll always be working with different stakeholders, different scenarios, different challenges, so on and so forth. So really try to avoid the one size fits all kind of 3-step process or whatever it is, and really think about how we need to build our capacities as individuals, as organizations across these different dimensions, and then we can bring them into projects that we're working on and so forth. So we'll be looking next time at tools, many of these tools that will be able to fit into these different dimensions, and then really start working in a more concrete way around these challenges. That's what's coming up next week, same time. You'll find a link there. We'll be into week 2. We're going to wrap up now. We'd love some of your feedback from today's session. I will say this was the first time we're doing this session, actually, so it's highly experimental and first time doing this program. So great to have you join. Hopefully you'll bear with us. There's some teething problems here, and we've got a lot of learning to do. So your feedback's really appreciated. Whether it's a dot vote, thinking this was helpful or not so helpful, or whether, even better, it's a sticky down here showing your ideas on how we might improve this in the future sessions. We also have this coming up. It's a little check in on Mondays in between each session so that we can get something more personalized, peer coaching. You can bring in the challenge that you're working. We can have a conversation around it. Hopefully it'll be a smaller group of maybe 5-10 people, and we'll be able to really get to your challenge. I know these larger groups, it's obviously quite challenging really to get down to everyone's challenge. So you're welcome to join that. If you have a challenge you really want to discuss, you don't need to join it. You're welcome to jump into next Wednesday's session if you're just learning about methods and tools. If you really have a challenge you want to discuss with us and the peers, we're welcome to join that. The link is there and you can sign up for it. So we'll wrap up. Thank you all for joining. It's great to get started. We've got 3 more weeks and lots more to follow. So hope to see you again next week and in the following weeks.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next time. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.